All right, everybody, Mr. O back with you, and today on this video we're going to be jumping into topic 2.4. As soon as the slide loads, trans-Saharan trade routes, also known as the sand roads. And this one should be fairly short. Before we get going, you do not have to do the comparison of the pack animals. We're going to leave that one alone. I don't think you would have to do that going forward on the test or anything, so we're going to just give that a miss. All right. Got here a couple pictures of some camels and some oases, and these are really the backbone of this sand road trade. The camel, because as you know, camels can go a long time without water, up to 10 days without water, and when you're traveling across a desert, that's pretty important. The other picture shows an oasis, and an oasis is simply a green spot in the middle of the desert where there is some water available. You can see this is a picture of one. And they really became the stopping points for resupply and to get water. They operated the same way as the caravanserai of the Indian Ocean trade worked, where it was a resupply and rewater and everything else that you needed for the next leg of the journey. Okay. Two of the main trading cities on these routes over time are Timbuktu and Gao, both of which still exist. They became rich trading centers and very wealthy cities and made the empires that they were part of very, very wealthy. They also evolve over time into cultural centers, especially around Islam, because they become centers of Islamic learning and Islamic culture. All right, so the Epic of Sundiata really is kind of a little bit after, not so much after our time, but it tells the story of the founder of the Kingdom of Mali, and it's an instance of the oral tradition going back to the 13th century. You have to remember that a lot of the recorded history of early Africa was recorded orally and was not written down, and that's why some of it has been lost. And this conveys not only the history of Mali, but also gives you a glimpse into the culture of the time period in the region. All right, Mansa Musa, the most famous of the kings of these emperors, of these empires of Ghana first, then Mali, and then Songhai, which comes a little bit later in our time frame. He expanded Mali. He built mosques. He was a Muslim. He turned Timbuktu into a major trading hub, and eventually he goes on his pilgrimage to Mecca, which is what he is most famous for. It really elevates the position of Mali in the Islamic world, and a lot of what it's remembered about is the amount of gold that he basically just throws around. Mansa Musa is deemed by many to be the richest man who ever lived. He sat atop the gold trade of the Sahara Desert and was extremely wealthy, and when he went on pilgrimage, he just spent and lavished gold on everybody he met. Okay. The trading cities of the Songhai Empire, what comes afterwards is the Songhai, again, Timbuktu and Gao, you can see there as the major cities along the Niger River. Dominated West Africa in the 15th and 16th century. It's one of the largest states in African history, one of the biggest empires ever to grow up. Gao really becomes the major city. Timbuktu fades a little bit to the background. Gao becomes very wealthy and powerful. Okay, some key places during this time frame that all played a little bit of a part in this trade. Okay, Mali, obviously, it's on the southern side. Al-Andalus is Spain. It's the Arabic kingdom of Spain. The Byzantine Empire controls a lot of North Africa until its collapse. And then the Kievan Rus really more just a comparison to this, but also another big trading culture on the end of the Silk Road. Okay, so Mali, we're going to focus on. Major city is Timbuktu. It's in the 14th century. The key figure probably of all of it is Mansa Musa, and the really lasting impact that we remember of is Mansa Musa's pilgrimage and their key in the spread of Islam into West Africa. Al-Andalus is what is modern-day Spain and Portugal. The two key cities of that are Cordoba and Granada in the southern parts of Spain. They ruled Spain from 700 to 1492. One of the key figures, and he's really one of the key conquerors, his name is Abd al-Rahman, and he led much of the conquest early on in Spain. For 700 years, Spain was really a center of learning in Europe, and probably the most famous building in that part of Spain is the Alhambra. It's part mosque, part castle. It is truly a place to behold, and just a beautiful structure. The Byzantines and the Kievan Rus, I'm not going to get too deeply into. It's more just the comparison that you're looking at there, so I'm not going to spend too much going over. You may want to pause and just write down that stuff into your chart for some extra information. Okay, so that finishes up topic 2.4, and we'll move on to 2.5. We'll get on our camels and go.